And all right. Hi, everybody. Me and Jen here will be teaching you how to catalog a sound record.
Hi, everybody.
So we'll introduce to you what exactly is a sound record. Sound recording, rather. A sound recording is an umbrella term that encompasses a vast array of differing types of audio files. The content of these include musical compositions, both instrumental or vocal, spoken word recordings such as speeches, and even the recordings of animal sounds such as whale songs. When compared to books, sound recordings share some similarities in the way they're cataloged, but there are some alterations and new fields that must be coded in this medium, such as field 047 or field 511, which we'll get into more detail as this presentation progresses.
So you actually need multiple components in order to play this type of resource, depending on what type of sound recording that you're playing. So we decided to code a record. So if you want to play a record, then you need quite a few components. You need a turntable, which can range in price from $200 to $2,000. So it really depends on your budget. You need speakers. You need the amplifier to plug the speakers and the turntable into. You need cords to plug everything into the amplifier. And if you're using a CD, then you only need a laptop computer with a CD drive. But if you're using a tower computer, then a CD drive is needed as well. And then you'll need extra speakers that can attach to the tower by cords. So you'll also need cords for that.
All right, so how libraries store and provide access to sound recordings. So we have an example here, a very nice example. So the Boston Public Library houses an extensive collection of 78 RPM sound recordings from the early 20th century. So if you're wondering what RPM stands for, that's revolutions per minute, and that's pretty central to all records. They usually vary from 33.5 to 45 to 78 RPMs. Up until recently, most of these recordings were never circulated, remaining in storage, uncatalogued, and inaccessible to the public, which seems to be kind of a huge oversight. However, Boston Public Library has undergone a significant digitization project, converting these recordings into MP3 files. These sound recordings are easily accessed online and are provided to patrons free of charge. And in fact, I was listening to some of these recordings the other day, and they sound fantastic. So, you know, I definitely like my oldies. So if you like Louis Armstrong, Glenn Miller, Duke Ellington, I definitely recommend visiting the Boston Public Library's 70 RPM collection.
And here we have some examples of sound recordings. On the left here, we have compact discs. We have the cases, and then here are the CDs here. And then here we've got a little video that shows you how to play a record.
All right. So, cataloging properties for sound recordings. So as far as the principles of cataloging goes, I would say the most important principles would be convenience for the user along with consistency and standardization when it comes to cataloging sound recordings. Sound recordings contain many unique fields such as 024, for example, is a record's UPC, which is Universal Product Code, or International Standard Music Number, depending on the record, and 047, which is the Form of Musical Composition Code, which is a genre identifier. So these fields help to differentiate what exactly is the content, genre, and format of the sound recording, because there's several different variations. The content could easily be a CD, it could be a record, it could be an 8-track. There's so many different genres, and then formats too, like required, like such as stereophonic, quadraphonic, which we'll get into more detail as this presentation progresses. So these additional fields allow for greater conveniences for the user searching online catalogs for these recordings. So the new fields that we will cover are 024, which is the other standard identifier, 028, publisher distributor number, 044, country of publishing / producing entity code, 047, form of musical composition code, 306, playing time, 344, sound characteristics, 508, creation / production credit notes, 511, participant and performer notes, and 542, information relating to copyright status. And there was also another field too that was not included on there, very similar to 542. It's 540, which is terms governing use and reproduction note. And I just want to say, don't be overwhelmed by the number of these new fields. Many are very straightforward. A lot of them use the same tables and codes that we've been introduced to you. So they should be pretty familiar with everybody. So we're going to get more into these details right away. We're about to get right into the nitty gritty here.
Okay, so first I'll just explain the leader field. So we refer to MARC 21 and OCLC for the entire project. So for the leader field in position 5, I put C for corrected or revised record because it's not an original. For position 6, I put, for record type, I put J for musical sound recording. For position 7, I selected M for monograph item, since it's a single item and not part of a series. In position 17, I put I for one full record, material not examined, because I didn't have the material in hand. For position 18, I put I for ISBD punctuation. So we also have some examples here from other libraries as to how they use their formats and the type of icons that they use. So for the Winnipeg Public Library, they've got this little CD here for audio disc, and then they've got this little speaker here for sound recording. So you can browse by format, and it's under music CDs, and that's the filter. OCLC uses these icons for music and audiobooks. Get a little speaker here, get a little music note here for music CD. And we search by format, it's under the title audiobook and music recording. And then Boston Public Library uses a blue icon reminiscent of an MP3 player. That's what James thought. I thought it looked like a floppy disk.
I agree to disagree.
Yeah. And yeah, so you can search under the filters by genre. And the coding in the leader field in position 6 is J for sound recording. And that's what renders the materials to present as such in the catalog. And also in field 007, you'll put S for sound recording. Okay, so I'm just going to stop sharing this right now.
Yeah, we're going to move to the full record here from where Jen will introduce 007 and 008 more completely.
Okay, so here is the full record. So I'll start by explaining 007. So for the physical description, I again consulted OCLC and MARC. In position 00 in the sound recording section, I put S for sound recording. In 01, I put D for sound disc. In 02, I put the number sign for undefined. For position 3, I put B for 33 revolutions per minute. And position 3 is the speed at which the record spins. So if you listen to records, you'd see that there's a little lever button on turntables so that you can adjust the speed. And 12-inch records typically use a speed of 33 RPMs. So position 4 is the configuration playback, which means how the music is going to sound coming out of the speakers. So typically you want the sound to be in stereo, meaning it comes out of both speakers. So I selected S for stereophonic. M stands for mono, meaning it would come out of one speaker, and Q stands for quadraphonic or multi-channel, meaning it would be in surround sound. but we just wanted S for stereophonic. Then position 5 is for the groove width / groove pitch. This refers to the grooves on the physical record that the needle slides over. So I put S for standard / coarse because this is just a regular record. However, the position is optional. So position 6 is the dimensions of the record. So a normal size record is 12 inches. So I put E, which represents 12 inches in diameter, right here. And the remaining 5 positions are optional. They were not mandatory, but I will explain them. So position 9 for kind of disc, cylinder, or tape, I put M for mass produced. Position 10 is kind of material. I put N for not applicable. Position 12 is a special playback characteristic. I put no attempt to code. Position 13 is capture and storage technique. I put E for analog electronic storage because I know that records are analog recordings. Okay, so that was just 007. So now 008, in position 6, I put S for single date known. Then position 7 to 10 is the date that it was published. Then we move on to 11 to 14, which is undefined and not applicable. Position 15 to 17 is ONC, which stands for Ontario. That's the country code for Ontario, which is where it was published. Position 18 to 21, and this is where it becomes music specific. Before it was just like for every single type of MARC record. So this is where it becomes specific to sound recording. I put RC, which stands for rock music, and that's the type. 20 and 21 were not applicable. 22 was target audience, so I put G for general. Position 23 was not applicable. 24 to 29 were the number signs for no accompanying material. Position 30 to 31 was also a number sign, which represents sound. Position 32 was undefined. 33 was not applicable, and 34 was undefined. And then 35 to 37 is the language, which is English. We all recognize this. Okay, and then James will explain the next one.
Yes, thank you so much. So 024 is the other standard identifier field. So this is very, very similar to field 010 and 020, but essentially for non-book materials. As seen in the identifiers found on MARC 21, when you guys will go on MARC 21 to verify all this stuff, there are several types of this identifier. For sound recordings, the first indicator will most often be 0, 1, 2, or 3. When no specific number is given, such as like an international standard music number, which is number 2 in the first indicator, or international article number, which is number 3, when those aren't present, indicator 1 should be 1, which means translates to universal product code. Essentially, every item has a UPC, and you probably are familiar with the UPC. That's the number that's on the barcode. We use this in our case since our record lacked the other identifiers. Indicator 2 regards if there is a difference between what is scanned and what the number is printed on the record. For UPCs, check off indicator 1. Indicator 2 will be 0, for there is no difference between the number printed and the number that will be scanned. They will both be the same. So whatever number you see on a UPC is essentially whatever number is going to be scanned. So you would check off 0 because there'd be no difference between that. All right, so moving on to the next new field, that will be 028, which is the publisher or distributor number. So under for most sound recordings, indicator 1 will be 0, which is the issue number. This can often be found on the item itself. In our case, it was on the record label. CDs have it printed on them as well. And indicator 2 is for notes. We added the record company under $B as the publishing source. So $B is the record company, the publisher, and then $A was the number that was printed on the record label, which would be the issue number. And going back to 024, you pretty much just put in under $A, you put in the standard number of code, which in that case would be UPC. So moving on to 044, this is a pretty straightforward field. We're simply recording the country code under $A for the nation of the firm responsible for publishing the record. I'm sure you're familiar with the country code on the table provided by the MARC site. Our country was the US in this instance, and both indicators are undefined. And you're wondering why, like, because this was actually published, well, it was produced in, no, it was reproduced in Canada, but the publishing company Talking Heads Incorporated is based in New York, so that is why the country code for 044 is United States. So moving on to 047, which is another new field, and that would be form of musical composition code. So this is also another relatively easy field of code. Under $A, we record what form of music is found on the record. MARC 21 provides a table called musical composition form code sources containing all these codes. Since we're using the MARC musical codes, both indicators are undefined. First, and in general, first indicator is always undefined in this field. So for 47, the form of musical composition is rock music, like Jen mentioned earlier, and the code for rock music is RC, which is nice and easy to remember. And we've covered 082 is the Dewey Decimal Number, something that probably should be familiar to everybody. You guys can check that out on WebDewey. 110 is the corporate name, and the name of this band is Talking Heads, which is actually, funny enough, another album that they produced. 245 is very straightforward. The only issue is $H is referring to like what kind of format the record's in. So that's a little bit of a new thing. So this is a sound recording, and it wasn't explicitly stated on the record itself. So that's why it's in brackets, like we're already familiar with. So 257 was a new code, and that's the publishing country. And the publishing country, since this band is their offices are in New York, so the publishing country is the United States in this instance. And 306, that's another new field, but also very straightforward. So 306 is playing time. I would say it's certainly a bunny of a field to code. So both indicators are undefined. Under $A is where we find the record, where we record the playing time of the record. And like, this is like a new field for everybody, but I'm pretty sure for whichever group does video recordings, they'll probably do this field as well. So the playing time is always 6 digits. So like, I like to try to think of it as 00000000. Think of it like a clock. The first 2 digits are the hour slot. The second 2 digits is the minute slot, and the last 2 digits are the second slot. So in this instance, our record was 46 minutes and 50 seconds long. So it would translate into the code $A 00 for no hours. 46 in the second 2 digits there corresponds to 46 minutes, and then the last 2 digits, 50, corresponds to seconds. So the whole recording of the sound, is 46 minutes and 50 seconds. And 336, 337, 338, you guys are all very familiar with that. There's subtle changes, which you can find on the tables provided by MARC. And moving on to 344, it's a new field, very, very specific to this type of record, and it's sound characteristics is what is recorded in field 344. So this field has a couple more moving parts than the last few fields. Both indicators are undefined. $A is the type of recording, such as digital, analog, or etc. And in our case, it is a record, so it's going to be analog. And if you're wondering, for future reference, the MARC site has a whole list of all the different sorts of these types of recordings. These characteristics can often be found on the item itself. So moving on to $B. $B is recording medium, and examples can also be found on MARC, such as optical or digital. In our case, what is being scanned is it's neither. So that'd be more towards like a CD, because like CDs read things digitally. In our case, we did not do $B for this specific part of the record. So for us though, since we're doing a record, right? Like a lot of CDs, they won't have playing speeds, right? Your playing speed is almost essentially recorded for records, like vinyl records. So $C in this instance is the actual speed of the record, and this record is a 33.5 RPM, which is fairly standard when it comes to 12-inch records. And the other $ that's of importance here is $G is an important subfield. It's the configuration of playback channels, such as one channel for monophonic recording, 2 channels for stereophonic recording, such as Jen was mentioning earlier. And our record is of a stereophonic or stereo recording. So we would check that off under $G. All right, so moving on to field 508. Right down there, perfect. So you might have noticed 500, which is the notes field, and in our case, the lyrics are on the insert, which is a common thing with a lot of records. And you see 505, we've done 505 before, but the one instance in here is instead of chapters, what we do instead is put the tracks down under $T, the name of the track, and then under $G, we record the corresponding time of the song. So this should all add up to the previously mentioned 46 minutes and 50 seconds for field 505. So moving on to a new record, 508 is a new field, and that's creation/production credit notes. So this field is where we code the creation notes of the record. This can be found on the record and often includes the main performers, producers, engineers, songwriters, and essentially anybody else involved with creating the work. Both indicators are undefined, and all contributions are listed under $A with semicolons dividing each person, and ultimately it is finished with a period by the end. So don't be overwhelmed by this. A lot of this can just be found on like the record, whether it be a CD or a vinyl record or anything. So just $1, very easy. So moving on to 511, very, very similar to this. It's participant and performer notes. So we mentioned, producers, engineers, and all this stuff. So 511 pretty much cuts all those guys out, and 511 is specifically includes all the performers that are found on this record, and also includes the genre of the medium as well under $A. So yeah, no, this record actually had a lot of people on it. The band itself has 4 people, but then they also had 10 accompanying performers. So yeah, no, this is actually kind of a common thing, so don't be kind of dissuaded when you see this huge line here. All right, so we're almost at the home stretch here. So 540 is terms governing use and reproduction note. So this includes copyrights, but does not automatically include copyrights. It includes trade restrictions and all sorts of other things. This info can often be found on the back of the item, like whether it's a CD or a record. So in this case, both indicators are always undefined. $A is the terms governing use, and in our instance, all rights are reserved. And it changes too, depending on exactly what their copyright is. So sometimes it can be restricted in certain places for certain people and what have you. But yeah, $A is certainly the most frequently used subfield for this field here. So $D is referring to the authorized user subfield, which we didn't really have that in our instance here. And $F is the subfield for use and reproduction rights, and this states exactly how the item can be reproduced. And once again, our record didn't have this, but I'm sure if you read many records regarding sound recordings, you'll probably find this in your own research. And yes, moving on to our very last new field here, and that is 542, and that's information relating to copyright status. So this is where the copyright information is recorded. So our record has a corporate creator listed under $C, which is the record company, and $K is $G is where the copyright date is listed, and like that's often found right on the record, like all over the place. So that's gonna be pretty easy. 650 field we've done before, very straightforward. It's just slightly different for music. It's also going by the genre rock music, so that's pretty easy. And and then 700 field is where you pretty much put everybody who is a performer on this record, right? So for a lot of these, I could not find on the LC Authority's website their actual like birth and date, because like I guess a lot of these people are like session musicians, so they don't actually have records on here. But like the main band members do have dates included and stuff, so that's all included in there. And so I guess the new thing with this one is $4 is you put this little code here, PRF, and that stands for performer. So that's just a little tiny little difference from the 700 fields that we've done before. And just one other thing I want to state with the 700 field is pretty much whatever the order was listed in field 511, the participant or performer note, you want to keep that same order for the 700 fields, right? So that's what I did. So I pretty much followed exactly what the list of performers was listed in 511, and then made a field under 700 for each of those to give credit where credit is due. And yeah, that is essentially all the new stuff in a sound recording record.
That's it. That's all of it.
Yeah, no, like a lot of this stuff, it's pretty similar, and even the changes are just only very minor. Like I think like the biggest changes are probably in 007, 008, but I mean that's still kind of new to everybody here.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So I don't know, Jen, if you want. Yeah, I know, right? Oh my God. So we have also, we prepared a record, an exercise for you. And I know, I'm sure probably not a lot of people like Guns N' Roses, but there it is. It's interesting record. It's got all the stuff that you need there to pretty much code the whole thing. And we just left the pieces for you guys here to let you figure it out yourself here. So didn't think you're getting off that easy, did you?
Yeah, you guys get to code Guns N' Roses. So we'll send this to Can, and then I assume she sends it to you guys. I'm sure this is all like a learning process for everybody, but that's okay. All right, well, thank you everyone for listening to this presentation, and sorry it's so dry.
Yeah. Try to interject personality, but we only have so much personality.
Yeah, so I look forward to hearing your guys' presentations, and that's it.
Yep. And that's a wrap.